Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks in a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business at paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson is being sued by a dozen women who are alleging that he sexually assaulted and sexually harassed them during massages. Now, I find these allegations to be quite questionable because these women are filing civil suits first to get financial damages against Deshaun Watson and not get criminal charges filed against him to stop him from sexually assaulting another woman. And I also find the timing of these allegations to be quite questionable as well, because these allegations only came out soon after your Deshaun Watson decided to demand a trade from the Houston Texans to another team. Now, when I take a critical examination of these allegations of sexual harassment and sexual assault against Deshaun Watson, I don't know if they have much merit, because if your Deshaun Watson is the alleged serial sexual assaulter and serial sexual harasser, you would think that this dozen women would be filing a dozen police reports in an effort to get this man arrested and get him off the street to prevent him from possibly sexually assaulting another woman. You would be thinking that would be the first priority of a dozen women as related to a man who is clearly showing a possible pattern of serial criminal behavior. But no, instead of these women looking to try to get this criminal off the street that they allege your Deshaun Watson is, what they're doing is filing civil suits in an effort to try to get a payday from your Deshaun Watson. And that's, again, really questionable as related to these allegations, because any woman who has been violated by a man wants to go out here and put this man in prison so he cannot do harm to others and to get justice for themselves. Now, these women, again, I find that their allegations to be really questionable, because many of them were asking for civil settlements. And what woman is going to ask for a civil settlement when a man has participated in a criminal violation of her? That's a critical question I need to ask, regarding these allegations, because, again, you would think you would want to get this, again, serial sexual assaulter off the street before he could do harm to someone else. Now, the other component I have an issue with as related to these women is them not filing any sort of police report, because a police report is an official record and it is something that would, again, legitimize these claims. But these women don't want to file a police report. Instead, they want to go to civil court where it's not based on the standard of innocent until proved, where they want to go to civil court where it's based on preponderance of the evidence, but they don't want to go to criminal court where it's based on innocent until proven guilty. So that's another red flag for me, because, again, in civil court you really don't have to prove your case, but in criminal court you have to prove your case. So these women starting out in civil court is a red flag for me, because what woman, again, is going to look for financial compensation first and not look to get a criminal off the street? Now, in addition to this whole case of these allegations against this dozen women, there comes the NFL. And this whole incident started when, again, your Deshaun Watson made a request for a trade from the Houston Texans, a team he was not satisfied with. And when I look at this whole case, I get a lot of flashbacks to your Colin Kaepernick. Now, everybody who remembers Colin Kaepernick a couple of years ago know that he got into a big hubbub with the NFL because he demanded a trade from the San Francisco 49ers, and he couldn't get it from the owners. And when he couldn't get that trade from the owners, that's when we started to see your Colin Kaepernick start to act pro-black, start to take knees before football games in a protest for police brutality. And then eventually we saw NFL ownership practically blacklist and blackball Colin Kaepernick after his contract was up. So what happened to your Colin Kaepernick seems to be happening to your Deshaun Watson, and it's looking like the Houston Texans have learned not to really play the race card as related to Colin Kaepernick and a protest, and now they're trying to demonize Deshaun Watson in a completely different way. So what they're trying to do might possibly be try to turn Deshaun Watson into the brute of the month, if that's what they're allegedly trying to do, if you look at the pattern as related to this behavior. Now, if you look at this pattern, it's, again, seems convenient that right after Deshaun Watson makes this request for a trade, all of a sudden, all of these allegations of sexual harassment and sexual assault emerge, and the media goes on a frenzy talking about all of these allegations of sexual harassment and sexual assault. And this, again, looks like the NFL is trying to demonize your Deshaun Watson as a black brute and discredit him similar to what they did with Colin Kaepernick in an effort to prevent your Deshaun Watson from being able to go out here and be able to get trades for himself and enrich himself at the expense of the NFL. So I'm looking at this and I'm starting to see a pattern of racism possibly from the NFL as related to black quarterbacks, because it seems like every time a black quarterback makes a request for a trade, the NFL tries to make that black quarterback into a bad guy, and the mainstream media try to make that black quarterback into a bad guy. And it only seems like they try to make the black quarterback a bad guy when he's talking about economic empowerment and enriching himself, as long as he's a slave for the NFL on the NFL plantation, playing ball on the NFL's terms and the owner's terms, everything is fine. But once that player starts to talk about economically enriching himself or playing for another team so he can get a better deal, then that's when, conveniently it seems, either they try to demonize you as a troublemaker, or in this case, they try to demonize a black man as a black brute. And if this is the case, then possibly we may be seeing a real serious problem with racism in the NFL, and it shows us that this racism has an economic component, because it seems like these NFL owners don't want to see a black man getting a larger piece of the pie. Meanwhile, players like Tom Brady can go out here and get $20 and $30 million contracts, but guys like Deshaun Watson and Colin Kaepernick cannot negotiate for better deals. And every time it seems like they try to negotiate for some sort of better deal to enrich and economically empower themselves, that's when the NFL allegedly and the media try to spin a story making these black men out to be bad guys. And that's what it's looking like from this pattern that's emerging, because again, when I take a critical examination of what's going on here with Deshaun Watson, I'm seeing a lot of eerie parallels to what happened to Colin Kaepernick. And I don't really like Colin Kaepernick because I knew that he was trying to hustle for a trade, but these men have a right to get a trade, because in this whole game, it's not just about the statistics, it's about the money you're going to make, because you want to be paid and compensated fairly for your services. But when I look at this case, again, I'm just seeing a pattern here that's emerging, that the NFL does not see black quarterbacks or any of their black players as people who deserve fair and economic compensation. They just see NFL players as slaves on their football plantation. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up the newest John Haynes series book, John Haynes Taking Care of Business, you can pick it up in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com right now by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.